sometimes I do fantasize and think about, well, what if we did a brain freeze show instead? What if it was ice cream this entire time? But there's no looking back now. You know, I knew that Hot Ones would work from the very first shoot. The audience didn't know that yet. It was not a big hit right out of the gate, but just the way that I'd see guests turn into cartoon characters.
I feel like I'm gonna die.
I know, like, just be bouncing around the studio and doing laps and climbing up on tables. Like, I'd just never seen anything like that, and that was just in the studio. I knew once it went to video that audiences would really rally around it, and it took a couple years and a lot of spicy wings, but eventually my hypothesis was proven right.
If you could change the food on your show to something besides chicken wings, what would you choose?
Well, you know, I sometimes think about how wings are now the cross that I bear, and I'm tethered to the show and its format, and I've done it now for over 10 years and hundreds of episodes, which equals thousands and thousands of wings. I would like to say I love the chicken wing. It's changed my life, mostly for the better. But sometimes I do fantasize and think about, well, what if we did a brain freeze show instead? What if it was ice cream this entire time? But there's no looking back now.
So I thought maybe you would say like broccoli.
No, between broccoli and ice cream, I'd much rather have ice cream. Pizza, ice cream, pasta, that's where I'd go with it.
What is one thing about the life of a celebrity interviewer that people might be surprised to hear?
You know, it's a lot of carry-on bags and flights. There are times where I probably sleep in a hotel room over the course of a year more than I sleep in my own bed. And then I would say the unique point of view that it offers on celebrity, you know, there's this big thing about the bigger the star, the more of a pain they must be to work with, or the more of a diva they are. I find that the biggest stars are the easiest to work with, and same with the up-and-coming stars. It's the middle that can be a little bit of a problem.
Problem how?
just high maintenance.
Of all your guests, who was the kindest person behind the scenes?
Ooh, you know, shockingly, it is 99% of the time a very positive shoot experience. Despite this bizarre caveat of having to eat scorching hot chicken wings. But just sort of walking in and vibing and becoming everyone's instant best friend on set, I'd have to say Post Malone.
It don't even hurt though.
It don't even hurt.
That's the best part, I can't even feel it.
Who differed the most from your expectations?
The person who I think was most different from what I expected was Gordon Ramsay, who of course everyone would expect to come in hot and tear apart the wings and curse me out, and of course he did do all of those things.
How'd you get a chicken wing that looks like my granddad's big toe?
But I've come to know him as just kind of a giant teddy bear. Like if I saw him right now, it'd just be a big hug and I'd pinch his cheeks.
Who was the most different on camera versus off?
The most different on camera versus off to me is Pharrell, who, when he's on camera, has this stoic, artistic poker face the entire time. And I was kind of like, while it was happening, I was like, oh, is this even affecting him? And then as soon as the camera's cut, he was just turned into that cartoon character that we see, you know, just, like falling down on the ground and being like, you almost killed me, you almost had me, you almost had me. And I just remember thinking like, wow, he was holding that in the entire time that he was on camera. So that often happens where someone's like, is it cut? And then they feel they can kind of let the belt loose a little bit, you know, but no one like him.
That's kind of a shame because I feel like that's the whole point of the premise is to get people to
Well, you know, the whole point of the show is to, you know, like break somebody, but sometimes it's unstoppable force meets a movable object, and you have to respect when the immovable object wins, I think.
Who was the weakest?
DJ Khaled famously tapped out on the third wing.
This right here is dangerous.
And that was in the first season of the show. We've been doing it 10 years now, and this entire time I've been waiting for someone to break DJ Khaled's reverse record, but we have not had anyone come close.
And who's the best?
You know, once a season, I think we have a guest who kind of comes in and just ephemerally floats into the seat and then just dunks on me on my own show. Recently, ones that come to mind are Will Forte, Ariana Grande, Demi Moore. And then if we go back in time, Dax Shepard, Lord, and I'm sure a bunch that I'm missing that fans always like to remind me of. But over the years, that's the funny thing about Peppers, is they all affect people differently. And then you're doing it in this bizarre context of being on a TV show.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh, there it is.
We used to bet on how people would fare, and we stopped doing that because as predictable as the format of the show is, the actual show is very unpredictable.
Who would you never ever have back?
I mean, I say this, but he has an open invite, but Steve-O is a tough cat to wrangle, and you know that hot sauce bottle is getting popped, and it's gonna go into his eye. And it's going to be a mess, and the studio will be in chaos, but they are always fun episodes. So I say that, but he has an open invite.
Who's your personal favorite?
I have a little bit of a Mount Rushmore of episodes. Paul Rudd,
This whole side's turning pink.
Gordon Ramsay,
That's not normal.
Viola Davis,
My lips are burning off.
the Conan O'Brien episode.
Oh, it's building.
Yeah.
If someone's asking like, oh, like what is Hot Ones? I'll just be like, watch this. If you like this, you might like the show. If you don't like this, stop watching. We're never going to win you over.
What do you think the creator economy will look like in 10 or 20 years?
You know, it's interesting to think about whether, you know, this sort of creator wave will kind of take over the traditional in a way that almost kind of worries me. As much as we have this unique internet hook, we really are a show that's shaped by the traditional late night hosts that came before us. And, you know, sometimes I do worry about, you know, like our sports broadcaster is going to be replaced by like a creator wave that comes in just because they can get so many eyeballs at scale. But at the end of the day, entertainment is just what you want reflected back at you. So if that's what happens, that's what audiences want, but sometimes I worry about it.
There's a lot of creators who have started doing interview shows. Like, what do you think marks the difference between the ones that succeed and the ones that fail?
Yeah, and that is true. You know, like when we first started, there weren't that many interview shows on the internet. And now there are so many of them. And I don't think that there's necessarily one road to success. You know, like for us, there's probably, you know, an emphasis on a career spanning interview, trying to be thoughtful.
Oh my God, you really do your homework.
But sometimes there are people who can just interview by having a guest pass through the lens of like their own perspective and their own point of view. And that can work out really well too. So I think the ones that work though are the people that care. You know, I think what we do is we do care about our guests.
Cheers,
It's been a
Tom.
pleasure, mate. I've really enjoyed this.
Pleasure is all mine.
There's this natural impulse that even once they've left the studio, I kind of root for them in their careers long after it. We have people who, when they sit down, it kind of goes one or two roads. We either become best friends for life, bonded by the trauma of eating these wings together, or they never want to see me again. And I'm okay with either road. But I think that that's the thing that matters in an interview show, that you actually respect your guest, or at least enough to respect their time, and also respectful of the audience's time if they're going to tune in.